And Melissa hopped on. I see Wendy. So welcome. I'm so glad you all are here. We're going to start off with our guest speaker, Danielle Van Haute. She's the Associate Director of Respect Life for the Diocese. And this is a really, well, every month is a busy month for her, but this month more particularly, we're focusing on the blessedness of the gift of life. And after Danielle's done, we'll do some Q&A with her, and then we'll go on to kind of what's on your mind as far as your ministry. So I want to introduce Danielle Van Haute. We actually met on email a long time ago when she first started her position. I was still at St. Thomas More. I don't even know what role I was in. I guess I was pastoral director. And I started getting these new emails from this new Respect Life lady. And so I immediately connected with her, and have been so incredibly gifted and blessed now to serve 2 doors down from her. And you can tell them how long you've been in this office, because I really actually can't remember. But Danielle has a beautiful family and a beautiful story, and we're just so happy to have her here. So I want to welcome to the forum Danielle Van Haute, Associate Director of Respect Life.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Oh, it's so good to see you all. Okay, so I was trying to think, how long have I been here? 8 years, maybe a little bit longer, 9 years. I am originally from Massachusetts. You can probably tell I do not have a Louisiana accent. I've been on a Southwest trajectory my entire life, and now here I am in Louisiana, and we love it. So very happy to be here. So just a couple things going on right now in the area of Respect Life. Thank you to all of you who might have filled out the survey. That was really helpful. And it very much kind of overlapped with some items that Dina and I had talked about previously. So I'm going to cover as much as I can, kind of focusing through the lens of just current events and what is upcoming. And then if there are any specific questions or anything else that I didn't touch on, feel free to ask in the Q&A. So October is designated as kind of quote unquote Respect Life Month from the USCCB. In Pope John Paul II's encyclical Evangelization Catechesis, the Gospel of Life, he made this request that the church set aside a specific time to really focus on the gift of every human life. So for us in the U.S. church, that time is in a specific way in October. The theme for this year that the USCCB has chosen is Live the Gospel of Life, to imitate Christ and follow in his footsteps. This is kind of a nod to 2 separate things. So this year, March 2020 to March 2021, is the 25th anniversary of the promulgation of the encyclical, The Gospel of Life. So there's a recognition of that, and many of the materials are focused on diving in a little bit deeper to the Gospel of Life. And then it also touches on an initiative that is going to be launching in our diocese in January called Walking with Moms in Need. So follow in his footsteps, walking with moms in need. The Walking with Moms in Need initiative is a parish-based initiative. We are providing support here as much as parishes want it, just in terms of kind of supplemental educational materials, and those are being worked on now and will kind of be out as we get closer to January. The goal of the Walking with Moms in Need initiative is really twofold. The first is for each individual parish that is participating to identify resources that are close geographically that can assist women not only in pregnancy, but after pregnancy and after that baby is born. And when I talk about resources, I mean kind of the whole gamut. So where are the places where there is affordable healthcare? Who are the physicians who are accepting Medicaid insurances? Where are the resources if these moms need help with maybe looking for a job, looking for childcare, those types of things? And it's really designed for parishes to kind of get to know their communities and what's out there. And many parishes, they've done this, not perhaps in a systematic way, but they know this, right? But for parishes that haven't yet, it's an invitation to find out this information, make these connections within the community, and know how to refer women who are in need. The second component of this is, how do we let women know that we can help? And this is going to be different for each particular parish, but it's really focused on, okay, how do we get the word out now that we can help connect women to these different resources? That's it really in a nutshell. There's so much more. I'm going to show you the particular website that the USCCB has developed for this initiative. And let's see. There we go. All right, so many of our parishes have already signed up a quote unquote parish leader to head up this initiative, and I've been in touch with them. This is a volunteer opt-in, right? No parish is being made to do this, but just to give you an idea of the scope, I mean, so you have kind of the homepage here. There's an overview, get started, there's parish resources. The USCCB is providing the different tools, inventories, templates, all of those things. So it's really a large undertaking in terms of preparing all of that for the USCCB, and then trying to break down each step, but they've done that well. So it's a year-long process, and it's in very manageable stages. Something that I've talked with Bishop Duca about, and he feels very strongly about, and I feel very strongly about, is that as much as we are here as a church to connect people to tangible resources that they need, what we are uniquely positioned to do is to proclaim the gospel. So how do we network, kind of mesh that with the Walking with Moms in Need initiative? And those are some of the particular resources that we've been working on as a diocese. Again, none of this is mandated, but there are going to be a number of different videos that will be available, and just a number of other opportunities for different types of formation in accompanying people, specifically in this arena of crisis pregnancy, respect life, those types of things. And so that was item 1 on the agenda. Just to show you some of the resources that are available related to the Respect Life program. Many of these may be helpful for you. First, just the topic Respect Life and pro-life, right? We can mean a lot of different things by that. Bishop Duca's homily this past Sunday, really go and watch it. It was phenomenal. And one of the things he mentioned was essentially, like, what isn't Respect Life? Like, what doesn't fall into that category? But because no one person can cover everything, right? Like, there are certain topics that are designated, and the USCCB Pro-Life Secretariat has certain topics that they focus on under the umbrella of Respect Life. So those are primarily what you're going to find here in the resources. But if you kind of scroll down this homepage, you're going to see the poster, a lot of resource summaries, little reflections, a reflection on the Gospel of Life, different articles. The articles are great in a couple different ways. You can certainly use them if you're sending out anything to parents and want to include an article maybe with that. That's a great way to do it. Certainly you could put something in the bulletin if that's an area that you assist with as well. Even just for our own information, the articles can be really helpful, especially if we know, okay, I'm going to be talking about someone who maybe doesn't share, says that, well, I would never have an abortion, but who am I to tell someone else? So there are a lot of articles in there that can give you some kind of talking points just to share with them. So great resources. If you look under the Leaders Toolkit section of the Respect Life program, and it's just respectlife.org, easy to remember. You have different areas here. There are source tools for priests and deacons, faith formation, youth ministry, Catholic education, and the media kit. So I will tell you, many of these resources overlap, but you will find unique ones under each category. So those are great resources. A few folks requested ideas on how to incorporate the different topics of Respect Life throughout the year. I'm going to suggest 3 ways to do that. So the first is to use here on this webpage, respectlife.org, go to program materials, which brings you to the top of the page. Don't mind me. If you scroll down, you are going to see an action guide section. So the action guide right now is the action guide for October, but coming soon, they will have an action guide for the entire year. And what that will provide are different suggestions and kind of timelines for incorporating different Respect Life themes throughout the year based on some of the major liturgical observations in the church. So that's a great way to kind of tie in different themes. Another thing that I would suggest is looking at what are the days within our liturgical year that the church focuses on Respect Life issues. And I'm putting all of this together, so I'm going to send that out for you as a resource. But an example would be in our church, the Vatican a few years ago, maybe more than a few, designated a day in February, the International Day of Prayer for victims of human trafficking. So that gives you kind of a natural tie-in to talk about human trafficking in, for obviously young kids, like, let's just focus on the dignity and the beauty of the human person. But for those older students, folding that into maybe particular lessons in whatever way. And the other area that gives us an opportunity to tie in Respect Life themes, it would be to look at kind of our I don't want to say secular, but not church awareness, but awareness months that we observe in our country. So, for example, Black History Month, Infertility Awareness Month, things like that, and use that as a springboard, not just for things in our liturgy like prayers of the faithful, but educational opportunities as well. And I know I can't see you right now, Deacon Alfred, but Deacon Alfred Adams is on here. So a great person to contact as well. Just talking about Black History Month, talking about human trafficking, things like that. I can, help connect you with different resources. Of course, there's Metanoia Manor. And so all of these different themes, which kind of touch on Respect Life, but there are better primary individuals to talk about it. We can help connect you with that as well, if that's something that you need. So, all right. Kind of just a quick word on 40 Days for Life. This is happening right now throughout the world, actually. 40 Days for Life started in 2007 in College Station, Texas. Basically, it was some individuals sitting around a table trying to figure out, like, what do we do about abortion? How can we help to end abortion? And they came up with, they didn't come up with it, it's pretty biblical, prayer and fasting, right? That's our go-to before we take any action, like pray, fast. So 40 days is a concentrated effort and time where we are praying and fasting, not only for an end to abortion, but for the healing of all men and women who have been involved in abortion. We're praying the conversion of all those involved in abortion. We're trying to cover everyone. And that is happening locally. In Baton Rouge, we have an abortion facility. It's one of 3 in the state of Louisiana. And we have every day, usually a pretty good presence from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Folks out there just praying and trying to be that peaceful presence. So there's the national site here, which is 40daysforlife.com. And then our local Baton Rouge site is 40daysforlifebr.com. So this is where you would go if you want to see what churches are signed up, or if you want to sign your church up or something like that. This is the page that you would go to. All right, moving down my list, trying to be mindful of the time. I do want to mention the Love Life Amendment, and hopefully many of you have already heard about that. I'm going to go back to the website. So the Love Life Amendment is going to be on the ballot on November 3rd. And it is going to be number 1 on the ballot, as far as the constitutional amendments and other issues go. Basically, what the Love Life Amendment does is it will put into the state constitution that there is no quote unquote right to abortion in the state of Louisiana, and there is not any right to taxpayer funded abortion. So why is this important to do? Number 1, if, and let's say when, right, when Roe v. Wade is overturned, that does not make abortion illegal in the United States. That is not what it does. In the event that Roe v. Wade is overturned, the legality of abortion will be decided by the states. It will go back to the states. So looking towards that, some states have what are called trigger laws. Louisiana is one of those states. That means in the event that Roe v. Wade is overturned, automatically abortion is not legal in Louisiana. In order to ensure that that remains the case, Louisiana Right to Life, really bipartisan support for this amendment. All these legislators, we are seeking to put it into our state constitution, because there have been other states, New York, Kansas, too, off the top of my head, that have already put into their state constitution that there is a constitutional right to abortion. So by passing the Love Life Amendment in Louisiana, that's kind of the final piece that is going to ensure that we do not have abortion here in Louisiana once Roe v. Wade is overturned. As far as, the question of, well, can we talk about this as a church because it's related to politics and this and that? The distinction is the church cannot lobby for individual politicians or parties. The church absolutely can lobby regarding particular amendments. And the Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops have given their unanimous support to this. Bishop Duca has given his support to this. And churches it is not only okay, it is encouraged to educate people within our parishes, our ministries on this particular amendment. If you go to the homepage, Love Life Vote Yes, on the right-hand side, which is a little difficult, let me move my screen here, you are going to see churches. If you click on that, it's going to bring you to just a slew of different resources that you or your parish can use. I know many parishes have already been putting in different bulletin announcements. Many parishes started that a few months ago because I've been hearing some questions about it. So it's really great to see that there is such an interest in talking about that and getting the word out. One other current event topic that I want to touch on is the development of a vaccine for COVID-19 and the ethical development of a vaccine. The vaccine that we have heard probably the most about lately is the one developed by Moderna. And the question has come up, rightly so, as to whether or not fetal stem cells have been used in the development of this vaccine. So there are two types of stem cells. There are fetal stem cells and then essentially adult stem cells. And kind of as an aside, as far as therapeutic use goes, there hasn't been any real success with the embryonic stem cells. It's been only with adults. But back in the late 70s and early 80s, there were two stem cell lines developed from embryonic stem cells. They were taken from aborted babies. And these stem cell lines have existed since then. So when we talk about fetal stem cells being used, these are not being actively harvested from abortions. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's no big deal, it happened a long time ago. Not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is this isn't an active process today where we are cultivating new embryonic stem cell lines. So these the two particular stem cell lines have been in existence for a few decades now. This new Moderna vaccine has used research that has come from the use of one of those stem cell lines. So they have taken information that has been gained with the Moderna vaccine specifically on different proteins. They've used that information in producing their vaccine. Does that make sense? So they're not using these embryonic stem cells. Others have gained specific information, and Moderna and really every other pharmaceutical company is using that information. Everyone is kind of stepping on those that have gone before them, using the research of those that have done previous work to move towards a vaccine. Some companies, that's not the case. They have a more direct cooperation with the use of those stem cells. But with the Moderna vaccine, as far as we know, it is ethically made. And there's a lot out there. So I am going to be providing a lot of different links after this to Dina or Barry or someone for them to share with you. So if you want to read more, if you want to listen to more info, you're going to have some information on that. Okay, and one other thing that I want to mention. So forming consciences for faithful citizenship has been talked about a lot lately. The election, pro-life issues, blah, all of that. So I am going to go ahead and step into that hornet's nest and talk about a few of the resources out there. The first one that I want to direct you to is this. It is the document Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship. Oh, look, everyone, hold it up. Yay. So this is one of the go-to sources. When we are looking at all of the voices that are out there right now, there are many individuals. We've had different priests saying different things, this and that. Look to our bishops when they speak as a whole through documents put out by the USCCB, and look to our bishop. And what are they saying? And if we are hearing something that differs from that, we need to start doing a lot of different cross checks and figure out what's going on. So this is why I say start here as far as when we talk about different issues. And I'm just gonna, so in the introductory letter, this is an updated portion of the document. Some other portions have been updated as well, but this is one of the things that the bishops discussed at their general meeting a year ago, last November. And it talks about here that Pope Francis, he says, in holiness, he requires a firm and passionate defense of the innocent unborn. Equally sacred, he further states, are the lives of the poor, those already born, the destitute, the abandoned, the underprivileged, the vulnerable. There's no human life that is more sacred than another, right? So that's why he says equally sacred human lives. As far as what Pope Francis, all of our popes, the bishops, they say, and this is on page 8 of the introduction, the threat of abortion remains our preeminent priority because it directly attacks life itself, because it happens within the family, because of the number of lives destroyed. And this is I'm just reading from the document. And then later on, they talk about how that is the preeminent threat, the preeminent issue. What are they not saying? They are not saying that no other issue matters. That is not it. Sometimes we use the term like I'm a one issue voter in a way that isn't really consistent with what the church is, because sometimes we say that, And what's meant is there's only one thing that matters. That's not what the church teaches, right? All of these issues matter. They're all important. And as far as any of our documents go, it is abortion that is the preeminent threat. So what is always wrong? It is always wrong to vote for a candidate because you want them to perpetuate an intrinsic evil. So for example, if I vote for someone because I want them to establish more torture, that would not be correct, right? Like that would not be good. I can't justify that. Anything that's intrinsically evil. If I am voting for someone because I want them to expand abortion, no bueno, right? Not okay. There are many other different things that we need to look at, right? Lots of issues. There's not a simple, easy answer to this. Bishop Conley, I think in the 2016 election, put out a particular article that was helpful. So, there are many different things to consider in this, but we know from what the church teaches that abortion is the preeminent issue, and I cannot vote for someone because I want them to perpetuate an intrinsic evil, whatever it is. Really check out this document. Also check out the website. I don't have it pulled up here, but it's not a long document to read. They also have simplified, condensed, one-page resources that can go into bulletins. Even if you're shorter on space, little blocks that say, a few quotes and then read more here, and they can link to it online. And then I hope that we'll have more resources coming out from our diocese within the next few weeks as well, that can be easily shared on this. Let's see, coming to an end. The other thing that I wanted to mention, because I have the new directory for catechesis on my mind too, I would recommend going back and reading specifically chapter 4 of the Gospel of Life. And why that chapter? Because that chapter begins with tying together the fact that the Gospel of Life is the gospel of Christ. There is one gospel. And the way that we look towards evangelizing the culture is the same way that we evangelize the culture about life. And it really, Pope John Paul II does a beautiful job of kind of placing how Respect Life fits into the proclamation of the good news. There's such a focus on evangelization and proclaiming the kerygma in the new directory and just in general, right, as there should be. And the beginning of this section shows you just a beautiful way to do that. So I would recommend checking that out as well. So, all right. I think that's it. I don't know.
Are you sure? You could go on for hours because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Danielle, you want to stop sharing your screen? Yeah, and then we'll take anything that kind of came up, something that you'd never heard of, something that you need more clarity on. We'll definitely send a list of the links in our follow-up recording and reminder. But anything that came up in your mind that you want to ask Danielle?
Danielle, I just did the survey this morning, but it had referred to on that USCCB website with resources. It had referred to the compendium to that Gospel of Life, something that would be shorter. Is that available somewhere?
Yes. So they, as of yesterday, I think they had not posted it yet, but I know that they are working on it and hoping to post it soon. Also, along with the compendium, they have already posted a study guide for the Gospel of Life. So, folks are looking for something to do in their parishes or just on their own. The study guide is available now on the website.
Okay. Anybody else? If you don't have audio, you can type it in the chat.
I have a question. I remember Father Eddie talking about the parish leaders you were discussing about for the first topic about having resources in our parish that we could have trained. He had a list together for our parishes, but I think it was like super late, and I don't think he sent it in because none of the contacts got information. So is it too late to sign up for that?
No, not at all. It is not too late. And I am going to be sent, so Bishop Duca issued a letter to all of the pastors back in, I don't even know when, because originally this was going to launch in March, but COVID launched instead. So I'm going to reissue that letter from Bishop Duca with the information. But if Father Eddie or if any priest, if they just want to email me the contact info, I will add those folks to the list and they'll be looped in on all of the communications happening. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How do we know if the information from our parish is included in there? Like, I'm not the contact, I wouldn't necessarily be the contact person, but like, for instance, in our Full of Grace Cafe, we have a diaper bank, we have job resources, all of that kind of thing that anybody can use.
So it's each individual parish that is compiling a list for those around them.
Okay.
So anyone who, and that's one thing that is kind of on that inventory, like what are the parishes around you? So for the other churches in Gonzales or Santa Monica, any place like that, look and see what's available as well in those.
Okay. Yeah, so it would be our responsibility to get our information out to the other parishes, say in our deanery or something.
Well, I think it goes both ways. I think really each parish is being asked to reach out to their community and do an inventory of what's available. And part of that should be that they're looking at other parishes as well to know what's available. I mean, certainly it's not going to hurt, in a deanery meeting or something like that to just say, hey, make sure, your contacts know that.
Right. Yeah, because we just have some things that I think some of the other parishes may not have.
Yeah,
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it could be a regional thing too, especially out in the rural areas where there's not many resources, but there may be one that serves a broader area.
Right.
So that's a good idea that once people compile their lists, then they can, make sure that you're sharing that with the other parishes around you.
Yeah.
Deacon just typed a note. Let's see. Glad Danielle reminded us that all the issues matter, not just abortion. Life is sacred from womb to tomb. Yes, it is. Danielle and I talk about things like this a lot. Like we'll come in each other's offices, and I think this is such a good moment for us to really get a great reminder of it. I like the fact that the Respect Life movement is not just for the month of October. That there are going to be resources throughout the year that we can integrate into not only catechesis, but in the different forms of evangelization and ministries that are served throughout your parish. So it's something really good to share with your staff, with your pastor, just to remind them. He has it, but he may have a lot on his plate too. But just the emphasis of a perpetual movement and a reminder every day of the gift of life and how we're called to respond. Anybody else have questions?
I have a question. All right. So one of the things I was thinking is that, like, how when priests and bishops teach, they're teaching in the name of the church. And so they can't obviously give an endorsement to a political candidate in the name of the church. But I was wondering, like with the lay faithful, I mean, I guess for us, it's different because we go into we're supposed to advocate for particular political leaders. That's like part of our job as Christians, is the secular sphere. But I was thinking, it seems like in our positions, because we work for the church, we have to be careful with that, because people will mistake that for us sort of speaking in the name of the church when might not be what they're doing. Do you have any comments on that?
Oh, Barry. Yeah, so there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I think, yes, for anyone who holds any sort of public position in the church, whether that's in a parish, in a particular ministry, in a diocese, it's very difficult to, let's say, post something on Facebook and say, well, that's just me. That doesn't represent the church or whatever, because we're employed by the church and we are part of the church. So I think we need to tread lightly in that area. I think the political involvement of an individual, there's a lot for them to discern with that. And I don't know that I want to speak on that in particular. I think it's always good for us to remember that there is no political party that embraces all of the teachings of the Catholic Church. There's not. It doesn't exist. So that's why often we can do better by advocating for certain laws, positions, things like that. One of the things in canon law is it kind of delineates how involved a particular priest or religious can be in politics. And that's why I think just there are many vocal folks out there right now who are using the term Catholic or saying, well, I'm a Catholic and I'm voting for whoever. So we need to look to our bishops and we need to look to our bishop and the saints, those who have been declared saints in heaven. There's a lot of people that we may admire on this earth, but none of us are perfect. None of us are above reproach or correction or, any of that. So when we look to our models, we need to look to those who are definitely above. So.
Yeah, I see, I'm in definite agreement about that, and like everything where we should not we should not consider that the church is a political party or that a political party would represent the church ever. And I do think, like, as people who work, most of us are lay people. We have a couple deacons here, but we since we work for the church, then people, people oftentimes view us differently and we don't realize that. So if I have a bumper sticker, or if I go on my Facebook and promoting a particular candidate and stuff like that, you know, it could actually work against evangelization or something like that. It could also cause scandal, that kind of thing. So I can see that. And then it's almost like if you want to be a lay Catholic who's really involved for, you know, in campaigns and going for certain people and stuff and being really public, probably working for the church isn't the best job. You know, anyway, go ahead, Nicole. I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say miscommunication over here. So I took a public relations class in college as my intro to public relations, and my professor, who is still one of my mentors, was talking about how whenever she worked for an organization, there are some organizations that tell you straight up you can't post things for certain things. And whenever you sign on to work for an organization, like, you kind of know that, like, especially if someone's working like in the church, for example, like, we know that priests in the church are not supposed to make like proclamations, like Danielle said, about politicians and like stuff like that. We're fine with policies, not politicians, because then you're taking away free will from people. There is caution whenever you are posting anything, kind of like Danielle said. The safe things, as Danielle said, are the official documents from the church, the ones from groups of bishops, not just one bishop, but like a conglomeration of bishops that all agree, USCCB, like official groups. The LCCB has another policy, Bishop Duke is on there. So whenever you share official documents and you share those, like, that's something, even then, still tread lightly. But if you're sharing official documents, that's okay. Another murky place is sharing like documents that kind of spin the truth a bit. Like, I hate to use the term fake news because it's a very polarizing topic, but fake news does exist. And there are organizations that are posting things that spin the truth. So if you see anything, like Danielle said, you need to make sure that you are double checking, especially if it's not something that sounds like what Bishop Duca has said or the USCCB has said. You need to do a lot of serious research, because if you don't, it could be problematic, and then you might have to delete stuff, and no one wants to delete stuff. And then, yeah, like, don't look for your confirmation bias. Like, don't look for stuff that fills your bias. Look for things that are of the truth.
Right.
Everyone's biases whenever we're searching
Right.
online.
Right. Those are good points too. Very good points. Also, you can also proclaim the good news, considering an election, but just using sacred scripture. I mean, it sounds so simplistic, but I mean, the word of God is the word of God, you know, and so that's the opportunity that we have. We're running out of time. We have about a minute left officially. So if anybody needs to hop off, but of course, we always do what I love Barry calls the parking lot conversation. So any last thoughts, any other last questions for Danielle? Anybody? I hope this was helpful for you all. It's a little bit different than our past forums. If you have like questions, particularly for ministry, stay on and we can address those. But I want to make sure that those that have to leave at 12 o'clock have that opportunity to do so. We can address particular ministry issues. So feel free to stay on as long as you can. Yeah.
I have one thing. I wanted to mention it, but I didn't want to take anyone's question if they had a question for Danielle. But Danielle and I have been talking a lot these past 2 weeks. I think I'm like Danielle's biggest fan. I'm taking this.
I don't just talk with people all day.
She's doing her job. She's educating people like me. I come to her office like every day. But I do want to say that yesterday I was on social media, and I am starting to see more. I mean, I know I'm of a different like generation on social media, but I'm beginning to see more posts about voting no for the Love Life Amendment. People who are more on the liberal side, who are like, my body, my choice. So there's a serious campaign going on. There's a social media account that is Vote No, like LA1 or something. Like there are serious accounts that are working against this. and like Danielle said, like, we are not against this policy, like everyone endorses it, so we need to really work on promoting it. If you have social media, you feel comfortable posting it, like they have videos on Facebook you can share, you can like, I think it's @Love Life Yes LA or something.
Love Life Vote Yes.
Love Life Vote Yes on Facebook and stuff. So like on Instagram, just like liking and sharing and commenting and sharing it with your friends, sending it to your friends, sending the website to your friends, and educating people, because there are serious campaigns against this bill, and prayer and fasting. So
That's it. Paige had a question. K through 5 resources are hard for her in the pro-life area. Broadening to all life as respect life is helpful, but I still feel like I need to be careful. Danielle, do you have any thoughts on that as far as the littles? You want to talk about our little ones?
I mean, I think with the younger grades, you can't go wrong with focusing on the positive. So what is the good? Focusing on the dignity of all human life, focusing on the intrinsic goodness of the person, and things like that. It's okay that we're not trying to introduce these super heavy topics quite yet, and there are ways that it can be done for younger grades. I think as a parent, and I'm thinking specifically, there's a book about child pornography, good pictures, bad pictures, that's made for younger ages. But things like that, those are good resources for parents to use in educating their children. But with the younger grades, things like maybe spiritually adopting an unborn child. I mean, you don't even have to bring in because this baby might be killed, or but just focusing on, hey, can you imagine how many babies right now have just been put into their mom's belly, or however we want to phrase it, and for the next 9 months or for this year, we are going to pray for this baby and their mom, and focus on the wonder and the beauty of human development, again, in an age appropriate way, or something like that. Just keeping it positive. I think it's okay that we're not introducing these super heavy topics yet, because it gives us time to build that foundation of the good and the beautiful and the true.
In the curriculum, the religious ed curriculum that we're working on to make it kind of more translatable for parishes, not so heavy, abortion comes up later towards junior high time, where we're talking about moral choices and evil and sin. So that's when you start really having the opportunity to talk about it. So yeah, with the younger kids, following the model of the curriculum, it's based on theology of the body, so the dignity of the person, seeing the other as other, and the preciousness of life. And so it starts with all creation, and then it goes into you and I, and so it's real simplistic, of course, based in the Bible, and based on all those wonderful things that people see. So, and then it builds upon that to where you get to the point of when you're talking about evil, and good and evil. That's when they start introducing kind of what I would call the harder sins to really articulate to children that are younger.
I was thinking of some of the TOB, that we are all gifts, things like that.
Yeah.
So
Perfect. I like the adoption. We've done that before, spiritually adopting a child, that's been conceived. So that's always, we participate. That's actually really, really good for children. My daughters did that in school. Excellent idea. All right, Mo, thank you.
Bye.
Deacon had to go to another meeting. All right. Any other thoughts for Danielle, or any other catechetical things? Yes, ma'am. Miss Gloria.
Yes, talking about the information that we should present to our younger group of children.
Mhm.
For our preschoolers and first graders, we focus on God's creation. And I think that should capture some of the things that Danielle pointed out, especially for their level of understanding. So I think if we keep the focus for them on God's creation, I think that should help with them understanding the basic of how important life is. So we're going to keep that focus and maybe reinforce it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's good, because by the time they get older and understand that, so it's rooted in them, right? Like the importance and the dignity of all creation, and of course another human. Then, if it's so rooted, by the time they get to this opportunity to even know what abortion is or euthanasia, anything like that, it'll disturb them, right? Because there's a formation of conscience that happens as you're helping them have that foundation in life. So at one point, something's going to be disturbing to them. And it's like, well, I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. And
Well, it's our hope they'll carry that with them as they grow older.
Exactly. Right. Because that's why every year, that curriculum, it really emphasizes that spiraling and then bringing them forward to something new. You can't hide from the evils, as you can at all, because one day it's going to be introduced to them. They're not going to know how to respond. But if we just keep at it in a very pastoral way, and also just helping the families grow in that confidence to articulate that.